very, oh shoot, I had to really calculate. I'm like, is this making sense? Day 10, I believe, phase 2, but now I'm not 100%. I actually have to go back and count some of the videos. And there's people, I'm sure, watching this, like, or if it gets that, said when I film it and through the process, it's not there yet, but when it gets there, right? What type of a person are you? Are you a person that's like super, like, and I find I'm very, generally I attract and I'm attracted to people that are the opposite of me, like very calculated and super organized and have, right? And in order to get things out, that's actually why people work as teams. And you should, especially as a company, but are more organized, and I'm one of these like kind of spaced out all over the place. Ironically though, that's how this has had to be, like throw out a mess to kind of do something. So if you're a person who is like that, who's very regimented, having to have things perfect, blah, 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 well, that's kind of your challenge in this, is like throwing everything out there so you can understand your thoughts, and then almost like reprogram your brain to reprocess, which is a very difficult thing for a lot of people who have been so regimented. So knowing people that are like this perfectionist type of thing or living up to these standards, that's ironically why actually so many people have problems too, or they have such a hard time. It could be like with the body reflection or weight loss or different things, because they're not giving themselves some freedom and stuff. So and I say that because I realized in myself, because with the body stuff, I have this perfection type of thing, but in an unconventional way. On the flip side, if you're a person who's a little bit more, I said that's why nothing's ever black or white, because our personalities have so much of a mix. But I always thought I'm dumb. I am not, right? Like internally, maybe not. And like the shift, like sometimes I can be smart and sometimes I can be dumb. It'll depend on what it is, but recognizing what your genius is, right? And recognizing that to actually be genius, you have to be dumb. That's the funny enough, right? That's why I say, so to the people that are so regimented, you actually have to recognize that if you don't go into your dumb, you're never going to be smart. And if you're so feeling like you're so dumb, recognizing that's actually not accurate, because you're selling yourself short. And that comes from generally the self-worth thing, or then it comes a lot of times too, that's where a lot of people's bad attitude comes from, the fuck it, and then the judgment. So people that feel that's hide, right? So I have learning disabilities, diagnosed learning disabilities, but I realized I actually, and I was able to keep up with society standards for such a long time, because back in the day when I was in school, there wasn't the distractions of the cell phones. There wasn't the distractions of the internet. It's a different time. Okay, so nowadays these disorders and these things are so magnified, and the doctors can't seem to understand this, or the teachers, I've recognized this, really. So many people have these issues because they're not, like, you have to admit, like, school systems are so behind because they're not matched up to what the realities of what kids are dealing with now. And then the ones who, and I know this for myself, I was able to keep up with society standards for so long back then, being like really ADHD, all these things has to do in our brains, right? Our brains are millions of years old. So it's attached to your parents, attached to but is a form of distraction, yes, but that's a trigger because of something that's happened, right? Really, probably, like, it is a defense mechanism, and it could have happened very young in the household, something that's going on. That's like a missing component, and sorry to kick people in the face, but that's true, especially if you, right? And I've really realized that, and I see that. I'm not going to get into the details, and I also have enough evidence. So if you want to disagree with me, fine, right? Like, I don't care. I know it to be true because I've done enough. I've been doing this for years, and it's not just me that it's not just me that I've analyzed and done these things for, and I have, right? I know this to be true. It's when there's our brains get stuck. And I say that if something's happened, because and I say everybody has a form of PTSD, depending on what you're been used to dealing with, what is traumatic for you. So some people can live their whole, a big part of their lives in this great life, and then something happens. At some point in somebody's life, all of the time, something's gonna happen that's traumatic to somebody. What that is to somebody is, that's where it's completely different depending on how you raise. Like, somebody's gonna die, right? You're not gonna live a life with somebody like in your life, right? That's gonna happen, right? You can't be a human and not have that. It could be a trauma, like, so a loss of a loved one, right? Depending on what that is, a parent or a child, a friend or whatever. Could be, you know, then you have the people that were abused. Then you have the people that, like, something's gonna happen at some point. That's why I say everybody has a form of PTSD. Which, funny enough, one of the things as humans, we have to eat. So many people don't recognize that that changes the chemistries of our body depending on, right? So, like, look at culturally, right? What we have in North America, how we're brought up to eat versus in other countries. Well, that makes up the body in a different way. Then you have the beliefs about the foods and the things. I was watching a video yesterday, 2 doctors talking about, you know, the mindset of, you know, weight loss and the different things. There was actually an interesting thing, and I go, haha, like, because I'm like against doctors, but I'm not, right? Like, I'm actually not. I'm just against the doctors in my lifetime that screwed me up and help. But that's where I seek out other things. But like taking, so here's a milkshake, right? It could be, right, whatever milkshake. I can tell you this milkshake, like 2 different groups of people, right? I'll tell the same milkshake, right? If you believe in this milkshake, that this one is, you know, whatever, healthy, full of nutrients, has all the right things in it to make you strong and feel good, versus, like, so you tell that to a group of people, tell the next group of people, though, this is high fat, full of sugar, full of shit, full of whatever it is, but it's the same thing. What would be the different response, right, in how they feel, right? That's one thing. There is the actual chemical effect of what would be in that, though, that would have an actual reaction, but how much would your brain be affected? And I say that's an interesting thing, because culturally, how we've been brought up, your family, what you believe, like, I mean, coming from, I have a different background, but like in your, like a European style thing is scarcity, because of what, so you have to eat everything on your plate, right? So you have to make sure that that's this, and that no matter what, well, okay, well that, but I'm not hungry, like, to feel, well, now I'm being forced, right? So that's like, now I have to eat all of this, now I don't feel good, well, that's the psychological screw up. Okay, now, right, into a different world of, no, okay, well, now in the diet culture, well, you're not skinny enough, like, if, or you need to look a certain way, so if you eat that food, it's going to make you fat. So if you've ever, and a lot of parents, right, I made sure, right, to my daughter, and it goes back to the, you know, learning disabilities and different things too, and how the different food that can affect the brain and different things, yes, but the teachings, and I made sure I never once to my children ever talked about their weight and food, because I knew already at a young, I'm like, nah, that'll mess them up. So they don't have those fears, at least it wouldn't be from me, but because I was a fitness model, would get put in that category, funny enough, when the other household would do that. But that, the belief around that, and that can lead to other things. And so I'm saying we have to be so aware of why we think the way we do, why we do what we do is that point, and what type of personality and character we all have. We have it in us to be really everything, but why we've been one way or another way. And you don't just write it off and use it as an excuse. So if you feel stupid, going back to this, a lot of times that's an ego thing, right? So I don't feel good enough, or whatever. So I'm like, then it becomes, going back to my kind of childhood, it was cool to be bad. It was cool to be bad. So I'm like fitting into society doing those things, but yet my peer group and everything, I'm starting to go in the other way, because why? I get street credit, and it's cool. It's cool to go against authority. It's cool to be, right, tough. Don't fuck with me. At core of that is fear. Is fear, right? So you don't want to be vulnerable because you don't want, why? Because you feel stupid. Because though you don't fit into the box of the way things are, so it's easier to drop out of school. Oh, you're a loser. No, actually, the way school is with a lot of people, it doesn't fit the people who have been through a lot of traumas or different things. And if you don't learn that school is so set up that it only is helpful to a small, like a group of people who learn a certain way. And then why does everybody have all these learning disabilities and everything else? It hasn't adapted or changed to the realities of what's happening in the world. It goes back to when I was a kid, I could fit into the things because I didn't have as many distractions. But the brain I have, if I had the phones, the stuff, and whatever, I wouldn't have been able to pay attention and get the good grades in school. I got good grades only because I was able to show up to school and then pay attention to the teacher, do what I needed to do. Not particular subjects where it had to be specific, like that's where math, couldn't do it because it had to be that exact thing. But other ones that I could work through, I go, yep, I would just process it. But if I had to go back and read a textbook, learn on my own and go back, I wouldn't be able to do it. Also because I had trauma, also because I had to work, also because So I'm made to believe I'm dumb. That affects the energy levels of a person as well. And it wears a person down. But it also then can make you become an overachiever in other areas. Funny enough, where does the focus go for me? Well then, right, the internal dialogue. I was bullied, right? I was a bully of bullies, but I also was bullied because of, and didn't look the same, my appearance and different things. So I'm wearing different clothes, whatever. The internal dialogue of not feeling good enough or being with, in peer groups or being made fun of or different things. So you go, I'm going to show you, right? Fuck you. But you keep it internalized. And then that can be used as a drive, right? They say right? Your enemies are really like can expose your weaknesses, but like it's almost like, well, thank you then, because like thank you for pointing that out so that I can get, right? So the people that bullied me in high school, who were mean to me, who made fun of me, who whatever, I had this internal dialogue. All right, fuck these people. I'm going to show you, right? And then I'm going to leave. So that's actually can drive you towards success. It's actually why I really set myself up and said I'm going to be a fitness model, because I was made fun of for my appearance. I had an issue with weight and everything else and those different things, but it was because I was bullied. So it's like, if I didn't have that, and then people lied about like where I physically got even beat up. So it's a tough thing, but that can drive you in a different way but it can only last so long. It's actually why I realized in my life I would go from one thing to the next, not realizing I was an overachiever. I was, because I was so insecure, but it's also why I hit a depression in my later years after I achieved all this success that I wanted. Like I set up my goals, right? I didn't argument, and now I reset my goals and I'm doing something new. It's also when I came to the point of I don't give a fuck about this anymore and I want to die. And people that haven't been driven to that point or feeling like I'm like so suicidal, one time in my life, I did try to kill myself. I did not give a warning. It was not like I was doing it for attention. I just did it. And my life was saved. So I can't hate on all doctors either. They did save my life. And the guilt of that too, right? Because the internal dialogues and shifts. Okay, so why am I focused on just the externals? Because it's an insecurity. I'm not good enough unless my body's a certain way. I'm not good enough unless blah, blah, blah. I'm going to age, right? This is the thing. I'm going to get more ring. It's a blessing, right? I'm going to age. Well, if I'm blessed, I could walk out tomorrow and get hit by, right? Today I could go walk out and get hit by a car and die. That's a real reality. So if I age, that's a blessing. Okay, now what's going to happen? If I don't have something else other than just my appearance and focus, what the fuck else do I have? People that grew up on love see the world differently than the ones who grew up on survival. Generally, the ones who grew up on love feel comfortable enough that they can find their hobbies, their things, the stuff that brings them joy. So it gets them through and they don't have those things. I realized in my life I never had actual hobbies. I actually never did until I started working out. It became a hobby, so I thought, but it wasn't. It was an obsession for the wrong reasons and the wrong intentions. Going back around, you can have hobbies, and that, why? And did you choose that hobby or did somebody choose it for you? Abusive households too, overachievers for sports and different things because your parent, and that's where coming up with society and different things, and why high-end people, right, are so addicted to drugs and different things too, or whatever else, because they can't, you have the one, right? Rich picket fence and everything else, and you can't keep up with the standards of the family. And then kids compete with each other. It's like, oh, well, you're the dumb one, you're the athlete one, you're the whatever, so you're gonna be the drugged out one, right? Because it's like everybody feels like you see it so much, like who's the black sheep, the whatever. Why? Because everybody wants that, like the not wants, but it naturally kind of happens that we become like the labels of stuff, and then it goes into society and different things. You can't figure that out. Well, it's pretty, right, to me it's pretty clear, but not until I stepped back and looked at everything and then like analyzed and then looked at the world and different things and went, holy shit, right? This is like, no wonder the world's fucked up. But I also have faith that if we were all as humans to look at ourselves and be so, this is why I'm doing this, so brutally honest, where we just be vulnerable, well, that's the highest form of strength, ironically. So if you're a person who is afraid of being vulnerable, understand that that's weakness on the highest form. I've known a lot of people who've gone through, right, really fucked up shit, like prison, jails, army, things. Don't cry, don't have emotions. That's the way, like, oh yeah, it's, you know, generally as men, right, that's something, right, it's a sign of weakness to cry, so they're made to believe, right? And in a way I had that. I had a mental breakdown, and then I was always like, even when I started my fighting, like I started fighting, which triggered my PTSD in 2019, so getting like constantly punched in the face, right? But I would cry, but privately. I would never let anyone see me cry. So I would take the beating, say, I'm tough, right, in front of the group, go to my car, fucking have breakdowns and cry. Then I got a hernia from that, which led me to, right, this is the universe, the way the body works, right? Because we can't keep up with these things. So after, like, how long you have to be strong, I put up this front for so long. And then eventually that's where the mental health and the weakness come from. That's what the misunderstandings. That's why I say I'm completely misdiagnosed. And that happened because I went off my medication, that my memories started to come back in that period that it started, not on purpose, but because I was so overworked and busy. Medication that was given to me starting at fucking 15 years old, the same medications that they kept me on, then more medication, and turns out that that's what kept my memory, why I didn't have a memory. I lived my whole life outside of my body. I had to go back, I got my memories back, and then I relived my life, and that's why I'm going through this process. That's why I say there's different phases and different things to get to the core. So I went through like a crazy process. Some people, right, this is way too much. I just want to lose weight. What the fuck's going on? But if you're really like, I want to change and be the best version of myself. I want the best relationships. I want, you know, the best life. I want, you know, health, wealth, and relationships in every way. Okay, now evolve. I would be so great at helping other people get there and do that, but I could not do it for myself. I like, at least to like that really next, and then I also though convinced myself I kind of made it. I was like, oh, I have my family and my life and everything's good. And that's actually, that mask and that lie is why I blew up, because I wasn't seeing the control around me. And that's where mental illness comes from. And ironically, it comes from the household. And that's where the learning disabilities come from. And that's where, and they can't see, and it's in your brain. So if you haven't fixed it, you have a kid in your own brain, that's where like these things come from. It's actually part of you. Our kids are part, like, you find so many parents have their own ADD and different things. They wonder why their kids do like have it, because it's gotten that you're not really paying attention to your kids. You're not stopping and paying attention to your kids. You think you are, but you're really not. And then they're spinning out and you just label it, the next label, the next thing. But it's the problem is the parenting. And then so my bit of a rant today on that, but it's just so that like I've realized in all this, like talking and getting through these layers is what's helping, because it's literally shredding the shit of the internal to the external. And I said, I don't care if they agree or disagree. I've done this now for years, and I've proven these things, and I know that. And one day I have faith that, you know, I'll kick the massive group of people that really with their certifications in the educational system that's failed so many people. Why? Because it's so out of date. It's so out of date, and it's actually causing so much damage to the planet. So it's kicking doctors in the face. Now I'm coming around to kick teachers in the face.